Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Forecast. And Arsenal have won against Wolves 2-1, but there has to be serious questions after this game around Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. But let's first just talk quickly about some of the positives from this performance. Arsenal did find a way of winning this game where at points it looked like this wasn't going to happen, and I guess you can take that as a positive, but I really think that's the only sort of positives you look at this game for Arsenal. Apart from that, they were absolutely shocking today. I'm not hearing the fact that this is the sign of champions and this is what champions do. They find ways to win when you're not at your best, and look, to an extent that sometimes can be true, but not in this circumstance. Wolves might be the worst side we ever see in the Premier League. You can't be cutting up that fine against Wolves. You can't be that ineffective. You can't lack creativity. You can't lack creating chances against a side like Wolves. They're nowhere near good enough. They are absolutely terrible. They currently sit on 2 points. They haven't won a game of football so far this season. And Arsenal were so timid. They were just absolutely shocking to watch today, to be honest. Backwards, sideways, not effective, not threatening. And the only time they looked like they were going to score was from a set piece. And I know they scored later through own goals, but that was really the only way that they actually scored this and won this game, was through own goals. Apart from the own goals, they didn't score a single goal in today's game. And you've just really got to question, do Arsenal actually have enough to get over the line? Because I think Arsenal are favourites to win the Premier League. I have them as my Premier League winners. But this is once again the problem with Arsenal. I thought we weren't going to see this as much this season. Arsenal have once again proven in these sort of games they are susceptible. You can actually get at them, and I think this is really important today, despite them winning, because the rest of the league will get a lot more belief now whenever they play Arsenal, and I think that is a major problem. I think that's partly why they've been under such good form recently, is the fact that teams fear going to the Emirates, teams fear playing Arsenal. After today's performance, teams aren't going to fear Arsenal nearly as much, and they've proven that there is a chink in the armour, there is a chances to get. Not only should you never have to worry about playing this Wolves side, you've also got to consider this is only the 16th game that Arsenal have played in the Premier League so far this season. This isn't the time of season where you should start to worry about potentially throwing it away. And Arsenal should be cruising right now. I think they've easily got the best squad in the league. And as I was saying, they're nowhere near actually comfortably in terms of ahead of everyone else in this league. I look at Arsenal at the level that Liverpool were compared to the rest last season, where there was sort of no, I think, obvious side that were going to challenge them. You could argue Manchester City this season, but Manchester City aren't a brilliant side, and they're actually only 2 points ahead of Manchester City if Manchester City win today, win tomorrow, which I do think they definitely could against Crystal Palace. And if you look at Liverpool last season, Liverpool were 8 points clear at this time of the year. Liverpool were cruising. They were winning every game pretty much, and it was a dominant performance. In games where it looked like they were going to lose, they were getting something from the game. In games where they had 10 men, for example, against Fulham, they were managing to get a draw from. Then that's sort of what I think Arsenal have to be like at this point in the season. They have to be cruising, they have to be showing that they're the best side, and they should be extending the lead in the title race more. And right now it continues to be cut down. It didn't get cut down today, but if they're playing this poorly against Wolves, then it's going to get cut down at some point. It does feel like. And this isn't usually when Arsenal start to throw it away, or we see sides start to drop more and more points when they sort of get worried. And we've seen in the past, Arsenal have bottled or struggled to sustain leads going into sort of April time. So if they're struggling right now, then I really think this is going to be a problem come the end of the season. There needs to be a serious conversation around how can we change this, how can we get this out of the system, because it continues to happen. And it seems like Manchester City tonight especially will be going, okay, we are well and truly in this title race. Arsenal aren't as good as it appears. And for all the praise Arsenal get in certain games like this, they are susceptible in games. They shouldn't be, they give you chances. In every game, there is always a chance that Arsenal do lose, and we saw this today. This should have been easily the easiest fixture of the season, and they made it look really difficult. And look, Wolves were alright tonight. Wolves were played well at points, but they weren't brilliant. It wasn't because Wolves were incredible as why Arsenal struggled so much. It wasn't because Wolves were so much better than they were in previous games. They had a bit of fight about them, and they made it reasonably difficult. But they actually gave Arsenal the win. they scored 2 own goals. That literally gave Arsenal the game. Without that, Arsenal may have not even got a point from this game. I think they would have eventually scored the first goal, but I don't know if the second goal that they scored right at the end was coming if without the own goal from Mosquera. I do think overall Rob Edwards has to be proud of his Wolves side tonight. He can be frustrated with some individual performances with the own goals, but apart from that, they showed a lot more fight than I think Wolves have shown all season. I still think there's absolutely no chance they stay up. I still think they might go down as one of the worst sides ever. I think they give some more of a chance of beating that Derby record, as that feels like the only thing Wolves have really got to fight for right now. Then the last thing I still want to talk about in this sort of game before going into the player ratings is Mikel Arteta when Arsenal went 1-0 up for that sort of last 10-minute period of the game. At no point did I actually feel like Wolves had a chance of getting anything from this game, especially when they went 1-0 up. And that should be it. But I've just got to question Mikel Arteta's tactics here. Why in the last 10 minutes of the game, when you're absolutely controlling, dominating the ball, just keep doing that? That's all you need to do. Wolves had no possession. You decide to sit in and you allow Wolves to actually get a foothold in this match. It just doesn't make any sense. I never get when sides decide to really do this, especially to this extent, because Wolves couldn't get a touch of the ball. And then all of a sudden you give them some confidence. They're starting to link passes together. They start to get chances. And that's why Wolves eventually did get that equaliser. It was actually a brilliant work goal. But they would have never been able to do that if Arsenal continued to dominate the game and the ball and look to get that second goal. And I think this is still a real problem with Arteta, clearly. Arsenal need to get into the mentality of one goal is not good enough to win in the Premier League. You need to score 2, and that is proven tonight. And if there is any sign for Arteta to question what he was doing tonight, it's now. Because if Wolves can score against you, anybody can score against you. It doesn't matter how good your defence is, you are always susceptible in the Premier League to conceding a goal. So then here are my player ratings for Arsenal's performance against Wolves. So in goal, we've got David Raya. I'm just going to give David Raya a 6. It was a decent performance from him. At right back, we have got Ben White. Alright performance from White, 6 again. Then we have got Yuri Timber. I'm also going to give him a 6, as well as Saliba. And then finally, Hincapié, and I'm going to give him a 5. I thought he was the weakest out of the defence tonight. So then we've got the midfield, and it is Zubimendi. I thought Zubimendi was alright, but nothing special. I'm giving him a 6. This is when you need Eberechi Eze to stand up in today's game, and he didn't. I thought he was pretty poor throughout. I'm going to give him a 5. I think it's partly down to, Arsenal tactics being too slow, too timid, and I think that was shown in today's performance. They need to move the ball quicker. It really is that simple. Declan Rice, I'm going to give Declan Rice a 5. I thought Rice was pretty good throughout. Declan Rice, I thought he was equally alright in this game. I'm going to give Declan Rice a 6. I think he could have been better. He had a couple of good shots or it tested Sam Johnson a couple of times. But once again, as I said, Arsenal were timid tonight, I thought, and weren't nearly as good as they need to be going forward. Then we've got Bukayo Saka. I felt like he was easily Arsenal's best player tonight. I'm going to give Bukayo Saka an 8. I thought he was Arsenal's sort of only threat. He also put in the 2 balls that actually led to the own goals from the Wolves player. The first one's a brilliant a corner into the back post. The second one is lucky, Mosquera with the own goal, and unlucky for Wolves. Then we've got Victor Gyökeres. I'm going to give Gyökeres a 4. Thought he was non-existent tonight and really wasn't a threat up front. I really just don't think he suits how Arteta is trying to play with this Arsenal side. Gabriel Martinelli, I'm going to give Gabriel Martinelli a 4. I thought this wasn't the game for him tonight. I couldn't really understand the selection. I think I would have played Eze off the left and probably got Ødegaard into that side tonight, because I think you needed creativity in this game. Against these sides in this sort of part of the table, I actually think all you need in these sort of games is creativity and people that can finish. So you could have also looked at a Trossard, but I didn't think the selection of Martinelli made any sense. Arteta, I'm giving Arteta a 3. I'm not letting him get away with this because there were 2 own goals. He's lucky to get 3. If they lose this game, it's almost a 1. I thought he got a lot wrong tonight in terms of telling his team, I think, to move the balls too slowly, the sort of tactics overall. But more importantly, when Arsenal were 1-0 up and he told them basically to sit in against Wolves, where Wolves had absolutely no chance, it felt like, of scoring unless you gave them the chances like they did. And I felt like that Arteta deserves huge blame for why Arsenal required that last minute goal. I'd also like to add, I think Trossard and Jesus' performance from the bench was actually very effective and a reason why Arsenal actually managed to go on and win this game. Let me know your thoughts on Arsenal's performance Did you think they were any good tonight? I thought they were absolutely crap, and I think they've given lots of belief to the other sides in the league, letting them know that Arsenal aren't a side that you have to completely fear, and there's always a chance you can get something from the game against Arsenal. And I think sides are starting to lack belief whenever they played them, especially at the Emirates. And also let me know your thoughts on Wolves, because Wolves deserve some credit tonight. I think Rob Edwards deserves massive credit tonight. I think he coached a draw or even a win, but the individual player mistakes will cost them in this game. If you enjoy this, it would be great if you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as liking the video.